Hey there, welcome to a new video. Today I want to show you some creative ways on how to actually use Bismuth. So let's get right into it. The first sound is a saw wave I've prepared right here. It sounds like this. And I loaded in Beam. You can use Bismuth inside of it, so you can set up your custom effect chains. And I've prepared one right here with Volt, which is basically distortion. Then we have Bismuth, space, a time, and a filter. And now I want to show you what these modules are doing. So the Volt adds some nice distortion. I did not expect the ringing, and this is why I had to laugh right now. Then I'm adding Bismuth on the randomized arpeggio pattern and also with some motion. I think the range is a bit too high actually. Just set it to around 6. And of course, we can make these hits shorter or longer. We can add a space, which really helps bringing all this together. And I see so much possibilities in Bismuth to use for these kind of textures and soundscapes. When you combine them with reverb, like you can do it in Beam, and with some time, which is the delay. And finally, little filter. This is just a tilt I added, so we can get rid of some of the harsher, higher frequencies. And now in Bismuth, we can turn up the decay or turn it down, or also change the arpeggio pattern to get really cool results for this really ethereal soundscape. And Beam perfectly helps us to do that in just one plugin. Of course, we can also make it more atonal with the spacing, which can also be really cool for some fever dream dveight-ish stuff. Let's get over to the next example, which is this one. And now when we add Beam, it sounds like this. We have a parallel chain because in Beam you can set up your routing with parallel chains, or like in the first example, in a row. And in the first parallel chain we have a Bismuth, also again with an arpeggiator and some motion. It's basically just playing the notes I selected right here. Then we have some tabs. And on the other parallel chain, we have some distortion, which is just for the reese bass. So let's quickly mute the first path. We have some Volt, which is a distortion unit. Then an LFO, which is controlling the cutoff of the filter, so it's slowly opening up. And some more space to make it really ethereal. And now when we activate the A path again, we have like a really cool intro sequence. Besides that, I'm also controlling the mix of the tabs delay with the same LFO. So this is really cool to get interesting textures out of Bismuth, also together with the other effects. Let's jump over to a plain sound, which sounds like this. This was a glitch I made in Serum in my 15-hour stream. When we add Beam, we can colorize it, of course. And the really important thing I want to show you is that you should work with short decays, because when the decay is really long, you get this really annoying and decayish sound, which does not quite work well in contexts. And this is why I can recommend just turning down the decay, so you get these really short hits. Because now in the next step we can hit on resample and start chopping up cool hits like this one and just spamming it. And boom, we have some sounds for a cool song idea, for a pattern, which we could use as layers. And this is also something I want to show you after these, for examples, in the project I have shown you in the last video at the end, so stay tuned for that. And you can also see that all these hits are sounding different because the input was really glitchy and had lots of stuff going on already. For example, we could also take this one and loop it. And this could also be a cool fill, for example. Or this sound. This could be a nice layer for something on top. Just take a random sound, also like this one, for example. This is really messy. This is sound I pitched down really low. I stretched it and increased the grain size. It really sounds like nothing. And when we add beam, we can colorize it. Also, the shorter the decay, you get this really cool texture, almost sounding like a dry waterfall. Now, if we combine this with beam, you could add some delay and space instantly. Also some distortion maybe beforehand to get more harmonic content out of it. We can also press on resample, and now we can just start chopping up this render and start arranging a cool pattern. For example, you could use this as a quarter note layer for a song idea. And then start adding some more complex stuff. For example, this one on top. And now we could use this as a starting point for a cool drop pattern. We just layer it with sub bass, maybe some more layers. Now, as you can see here, I've opened this really intensely large project file of the song. And you can see there's lots of layers involved. Also, this song, if you remember it from the last video, will come out on Friday on SoundCloud. It sounds like this. And you can see that this arrangement has plenty of layers which are resampled because I prefer resampling my sounds, so we just have more control over the envelope and how the sound behaves at its tail. For example, we have this layer group right here, which also has an additional synth layer on top, which is this one right here, I think. Yeah, to just emphasize the harmonic character. Then we have this layer, which was also a beam render, and I just added some EQing, some compression, and some more reverb. Then we have this layer going on, which was also a render of the beam, and I'm using it as a sustain. Also, this has some more movement going on because the input sound was more chaotic. And this is fun because you can get different sounds in the scale without paying attention to the notes or what it's actually playing because it's being tuned into the right key nevertheless. And later on, I'm using this chopped up as like a lead melody on top. And yeah, this is really fun to just add nice emphasized hits. These right here, which was also a render of beam. And I just used it to support the lead melody. We have these sounds going on, which is basically the color yaoi, which you can create inside of beam with the arpeggiator on converge or diverge. And this was also a resample. Different variations. One more layer, this one, which is just serving as a supportive layer in the background, but I also used beam for this, but I rendered it out. And with some background sounds and drums, it sounds like this at the end of the day. As I mentioned earlier, this song will come out on SoundCloud this Friday. It's a remix for Barking Continuous Song Goes, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Also, the second drop is super special. I hope you will enjoy it, so make sure to have a look on my SoundCloud this Friday. And this wraps up today's video. You can see that you can use Bismuth in really creative ways. I can definitely recommend resampling your sounds so you can just chop up individual hits from a longer sound design session, for example, so you don't have to pay attention to what exact notes are being triggered and just have fun tweaking knobs or feeding it with really weird input signals, because at the end it's being transformed into something colorful. So definitely try out this technique to just get spacey sounds. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and see you in the next video.